Power Breakfast. Top talk of the morning.
And we roll on as we do into the top talk this morning. Nkosinathi Shezi joins us this morning, who was at the National Dialogue and reporting from there. Nkosinathi, welcome to Power Breakfast this morning. Tell us about your experience and what it is that you picked up from the various delegates.
Firstly, good morning, Tessa Dooms, and good morning to the Power Breakfast listeners. Yes, as you mentioned, this past weekend, the National Convention concluded in UNISA in Pretoria. However, the biggest talking point coming out of this National Convention is that the 2025 National Convention has failed to adopt outcomes and resolutions due to time and administrative issues. Now, following robust deliberations and dialogue over the past 2 days, which was on Friday and Saturday, on the terms of reference, the National Convention still needs time in finalizing the roadmap towards the National Dialogue, which will be, of course, held in the first half of 2026. So on Saturday, which was supposed to be the final day of the National Convention, it was expected that the outcomes and resolutions based on the 9 thematic issues that were part of the agenda in the various dialogue labs, including crime and corruption, including growing the economy, and issues of GBV, it has since been delayed up until this week. So with the 2 days not sufficient enough to produce a report, we are expecting that the National Organizing Committee of the National Convention will communicate the outcomes and resolutions this week. And we heard from the national organizer, that is Boychoko Tikake, saying that by Thursday, South Africa will have an idea on some of the thematic themes that have been adopted as part of the outcomes report. Another interesting conversation, Tessa, is that the steering committee, and these are the facilitators who have been tasked with taking the national dialogue forward to the local communities, to the provincial committees, that was also not finished on Saturday. They were supposed to elect a steering committee to take the direction of the national dialogue. However, that, of course, did not happen as well. But it is very important to note that this national convention is just the start of the national dialogue process, which will unfold over several phases. But I attended a number of these sessions, and I got an opportunity to record just some of the disgruntled views of the delegates. And here are some of the highlights coming from the national dialogue, just from the delegates who were stressing the issue of time, who were stressing about how these outcomes and resolutions will hold government accountable, and they were stressing over the appointments of the steering committee. Have a listen to just some of the discussions had on day 2 of the National Convention.
Sizawuqala dialogue right now. The same government who's abusing us is the same way also leader this dialogue.
Delusional. It is not a secret. It is not a secret. It is a fact that can never be changed in history that the government is ineffective and corrupt. How are we as the youth supposed to trust these people with this very same dialogue? Right now we've raised so many issues, but the only thing that was aligned there at top was unity. How is unity going to solve the issue of unemployment?
So the question, what is the rush to this election of the steering committee? Remember, the president has just opened the national dialogue officially. So now the comment and the recommendation is that why don't we do the bottom-up process of electing the steering committee, which means starting from the wards, because the wards, they will be electing people that they know, and then going to the district, going to the national.
So that was Nkosinathi Shezi, who was giving us some of the updates around the National Convention that happened on Friday and Saturday. Zandile Dabula was there as well from Operation Dudula and was also part of the delegates that were there. Zandile, welcome to Power Breakfast. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Tasha, and to the listeners. Thank you so much for having us.
So my first question is, and I've asked this to many organizations and people who were there, why did you decide to show up?
Tasha, we had to find creative ways of getting into that national dialogue because firstly, we were not invited. And, the online application was very stressful to a lot of members who tried to participate, and nobody received any response. So, I think it was a deliberate exclusion from our side, especially because, looking at the agenda itself, immigration was not even part of it. And to me, that was, a problem, because we are facing so much, issues. Immigration is a burning issue currently in South Africa, and it was not part of the themes that, were listed on there. So we decided to go so that we make sure that immigration is part of the topic, because it cannot be left out. I mean, some of the themes that they had there, the reason why we have problems is because of the influx of illegal people in this country. And if you resolve close the porous borders, then you know that your crime rate will drop, your unemployment rate will drop, because you'd know that in those companies, the people that are working there should be scarce skills, and if it's not a scarce skill, people need to move out and allow South Africans to occupy those positions. But it was a total chaos. I'm listening to the comments, and the journalist was there. It was a total chaos. It looked like the organizations that pulled out with their brains. People were not allowed to engage as much as we wanted to. It looked like everything was set and had to be imposed to us. But I'm glad that we had South Africans, who spoke up to say, it doesn't work like that. This is how we want things to be done. And, another pointer for me, selecting a steering committee. These are total strangers, people that we don't even know if they are really representing communities. How do you leave out, Operation Dudula, the other patriotic organizations like your March and others, who are always advocating for enforcement of the laws when it comes to immigration? You leave them out. So who is going to represent those people who are disgruntled when it comes to the immigration issues here in South Africa? So, I think that I'll go back to a drawing board. I don't think we're going to collapse. It's not going to take us anywhere. We're going to have two parallel structures here. We're going to have a structure that is, the government, and we're going to have a structure which is the national dialogue. Now we have the ministers, we have your MECs, we have your councillors. Those are the people that we need to make them account to the issues that we spoke about, and not necessarily create parallel structures. What we need here is just the enforcement of the current laws of this country, and you'll see that our system will function, and smoothly so. We don't need these dialogues. We just need solutions, and our solutions are on the current laws that are existing that just needs to be enforced.
So as the group, Zandile, that were representing people who are around immigration advocacy, you stayed until the end to be part of and make sure that registers as one of the groupings around this process. Is that still something that you'll pursue in terms of making sure that these conversations include the immigration advocacy groups, and that there is some sort of action that is taken there? Or is your view now that you will exit this process because you didn't see the value in it?
No. We had to force them to include it because, you could tell that, they didn't give it attention, no matter how many times. There was a lady, one of the patriotic who we came with, that raised the issue that, can we also talk about immigration? But no answer was given. So we had to force them to include it. And they promised that they will resend the list of the themes, and immigration will be part of it.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to hear from them. They said the latest would be Wednesday morning. So by Wednesday, we would know that they have added it or not. But we'll make sure that it's included.
And so then going forward into this process, then Operation Dudula and other immigration advocacy groups will then participate in the rollout process. What would you like to see happen in that process? We know that we don't just want talk, but what is this an opportunity perhaps to do from your side?
This opportunity will, if we participate, will make sure that the enforcement of the current laws, is done, because that's the only problem that we have. I mean, you hear people saying we have the beautiful and, the most powerful constitution in the world. Our laws, are clear, but nobody is enforcing them. So if we're going to be part of that, our first thing is we shoot straight to the Minister of Home Affairs to make sure that the white paper that's been collecting dust on the president's desk, it's out there, it's released, and it's a bill, and it needs to be law, because most of the problems that we are facing in the country, especially when it comes to immigration, our solutions are sitting in that document. And the president is doing nothing about the document, not releasing it. And as soon as that's done, then most of our problems will be resolved. And then we can start focusing on other aspects, especially, the porous border.
Yeah.
Mike from BMA, the leaders from the BMA have been asking for, a budget. They have when they presented, a business plan that just needs 2 billion to make sure that our borders are secured.
And so that will be the thing that you championed throughout this process. So Zandile, also just looking at how those deliberations happened, like you said, you were able to push yourself into this process. And I think many South Africans who feel left out can take a lead from you and others who said we are not going to be left out of the process, but also the idea of being able to hold people accountable who are in the room, the government, those officials, and those kinds of things that you want. Do you see a hope in this process that using people's power we will be able to get the kind of accountability that we need and the kind of action we need?
To be quite honest with you, Tessa, I don't have faith in this process, but maybe if we put too much effort to it, maybe it might work. Firstly, we still need to engage, or rather report to the people who have been ignoring us for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
So we still need to liaise with the same ministers that have failed the people of South Africa. So I don't see what difference it will bring unless there's a drastic change. Maybe if, I don't know how, but, we've been trying to reach out to the people that are supposed to be leading us. But because they are arrogant, they are ignorant, they're not listening to us. I'm trying to figure out that what will the difference be this time? Is it because now there's a launch of a national dialogue that will change their mindsets and make sure that they listen to the cries of the people coming through a different structure? I don't see it work, but we'll have to sit down and replan the whole thing. To me, it looks like the organizations that pulled out with their brains, and the people that are left now don't know what is it that they need to do, because it was total chaos. What I've seen in that 2 days, to me, I'm really not happy. I don't see it going forward.
No. And thank you so much for giving us those views and those perspectives, Zandile. And the fact that you still were in the room is then telling of the fact that people want something to change so desperately that even through it, through the chaos, you are still there. So thank you so much. That's Zandile Dabula from Operation Dudula, views on the National Dialogue.